if you've ever been a part of those online gardening chats, it sometimes feels like the same questions keep getting asked over and over and over again. And I know if you've been part of it for a while, sometimes you can wonder, well, why don't they just look at the 25 times that this question has already been answered? And I really truly think it's because we just instinctively know that even if we might be in the same growing area, that every one of our situations is a little bit unique. So we'll ask the question with the information that we have, wanting to get a more specific answer. And I think we just know that every situation is just a little bit different, and there's a lot of variables. And so I really believe that the key is actually learning what some of the variables are and how to interpret them and how to come up with your own plan. When I, like 100 million other people in the US, discovered sourdough baking during lockdown, I realized that it wasn't until I learned how to feel the dough, how to watch the dough, and developed an instinct for what I was looking for, that I really got to begin to excel in my sourdough baking. So it's really the same thing with gardening. As long as you are relying on others to tell you what to do or when to do it, you'll just always be dependent on them, and you'll always feel like you're getting an incomplete answer. What I thought I would do is start sharing some information, some of these variables, some of these things that you can look for and watch for, and some of these things that specifically make your situation unique, that it would really help you to be able to know and watch for. And think of it like levers on a piece of machinery. You know, this lever moves this way, and that affects how you move this lever. So there's no one answer that applies in every situation. But I see a ton of questions for gardeners just starting up who are doing their seed starting, and they have so many questions. The number one thing that comes up over and over and over again is your grow lights. First and foremost, very, very rarely will you ever get enough light from a window to properly germinate and grow healthy, strong, vigorous seedlings. Most of the time, it's just not going to be enough UV light. The other thing that I see, which I was guilty of, is buying inexpensive and really weak lights. And no matter what you do, you'll get all kinds of advice on the chat forums about moving your light closer. And the problem is the lights just aren't strong enough, or you don't get enough of a beam spread. So no matter kind of how close you try to get it, you're probably not going to get it close enough. And even if you do, you're still going to end up with leggy seedlings. And basically, leggy seedlings just means that plant is trying so hard to get as much light as possible. It's reaching for the light. And so it gets tall and skinny, and it just eventually flops over, and it becomes really susceptible to a lot of different things. So when people talk about leggy plants, it just means something that has grown too tall too quickly trying to get to the light. So I am not a longtime gardener. I'm still learning, but I'm super curious and do a lot of research and make a lot of mistakes. So I can tell you my experience completely changed when I just bit the bullet and got some good lights. And at the end of the day, they weren't as expensive as I thought they would be. I got some 4-foot shop lights. They are 5,000 Kelvin, 10,000 lumen, and they're LED. So, and they are 4 foot long and about 10 inches wide. And I found that is just perfect for my shelves. My seed trays fit underneath it. I don't have any blank spots. I don't have any areas where the seed trays are having to reach for the light. They're completely covered. And I can tell you, this is the first year I've used those, and it has made I can't even 100% unbelievable difference in my seedlings. My seedlings are stronger. They weren't reaching for the light. The stalks were stockier, and the leaves were green and healthy. Just really had the best seedlings I've had since I started gardening. So number one is don't skimp on your grow lights. Get some good grow lights if you want to grow seeds indoors. I like Fox Farms. I probably spend a little bit more for seed starting mix than I need to, because I actually use their Fox Farms Ocean Forest potting soil, which I think for a 2 cubic foot bag in my area runs about $17 to $19. That could be expensive. That could be considered expensive if you're doing a lot of seed starting. Honestly, I do it just because I know I'm not very good at fertilizing or remembering to fertilize or getting around to fertilize, and it's got a ton of great stuff in it. So I really probably pay more than I need to just for the convenience of that. The next thing after soil is proper watering. And this was something I really struggled with in the beginning. And I think I figured out the two reasons why I struggled with it so much. One is I think I was using the wrong seed starting trays. And maybe saying the wrong seed starting trays isn't the right way to say that. I was using the seed starting trays wrong. Putting the wrong sized seed in the wrong size tray, leaving seedlings in the tray too long where they became root bound. And then what would happen is in both of those cases, the seed trays would dry out, and even though I was trying to bottom water, because maybe they were root bound or the seedlings were too big for the trays, they would dry out so quickly that I would end up supplementing with water on top, and I was just trying so hard. Either my seeds were dying because they weren't getting enough water, or I was getting so much water in there that I constantly had a problem with gnats. And I had to put up sticky traps, and I tried all the things. I tried the cinnamon, I tried everything. And honestly, I think that my fungal gnat situation just kind of disappeared when I changed these two things. So one was I got better seed trays, and I'm not getting anything for this, so this is just for free. I actually went ahead and ordered the Vigo or Bego, I'm not sure how you say it, seed trays. I ordered them through James Prigioni at Team Grow. He's just been so helpful. His videos and his information and his generous heart has been so helpful to me as I was learning along the way, that I wanted to support him by buying them from him through Team Grow. Those seed trays are a game changer. I love them. They are so strong and hardy. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna have to buy seed trays again. I really think they'll outlast me. And they come in two different sizes, so that goes back to having the right seed in the right size tray. I had some so I bought some of the seed trays that Charles Dowding talks about or uses, and they're the little small ones, and they've got the poke hole through, and I really love them. But in my learning, what I was doing is I was planting seeds that were too big for those little. So like this year I did it again, just too excited and not thinking, but I planted some acorn squash seeds in those little seed things, and man, by the time those get one set of true leaves, I mean, they are root bound there. So I had to pot those up and get them into cups, just because they were so huge. They're perfect though. Those little ones would be just fine for little tiny seeds like thyme or some herbs or agastache, any of those little tiny seeds that might kind of disappear. But honestly, with my Vigo trays, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, so definitely somebody correct me if I'm not. But with those trays, I don't feel, they do have a smaller and a larger. They have a regular and a jumbo, I think they call it, and I feel like between those two sizes you could fit any seed in there. But I'm not trying to promote them, I'm just saying the difference maker was these are so durable and so hardy that they don't flex and move around when I'm trying to carry them. I'm not worried about them breaking or cracking, and they also have the air pruning slits in the side. So I just have been super happy. But here's the biggest thing. But I love all the things that I've said about how sturdy they are and all that. They have the bottom watering tray, which is great. It works really, really well. It actually works. They actually do wick up the water really quickly. But the domes, it's not just one single dome that goes over the whole tray. There's actually individual. So on the trays, I feel like this just turned into a Vigo ad, and I'm not mad about that because I love them. But it's like individual pods that fit into the tray, and then each pod has its own cover. And so taking this back to watering is, I'm not struggling to keep those cells moist anymore, because once I water them really well when I plant the seed and I put that dome on, it holds that moisture in. So I know when I look at those domes, if I can see condensation in there, then I know I don't need to water. I know there's plenty of moisture in there, my seeds are fine. So it's really nice just to be able to walk by and just look for that condensation. And so I don't even have to take the lids off or anything, except for when I'm compulsively checking for germination, but I try not to do that. So just all those things help with watering. So that's the biggest thing. You don't have to have a fancy Vigo tray. I've even put saran wrap over my seedling trays just to help hold some of that moisture in. If you notice that it appears like I'm changing position, it's not that I have these fancy camera skills, it's that the wind keeps blowing my camera stand over. So what I was saying is, this is getting into the weeds a little bit, because not everybody, this isn't important to everybody, and not everybody feels the same way about this. But just for me, I think the key to a healthy garden and healthy, nutritious vegetables starts in the soil, particularly with the soil microbes. And so for that reason, I try as hard as I can. I can't always do it, but as hard as I can, I try not to use tap water or city water to water my seedlings or my plants. What I'll do, I do have a Berkey filter, which doesn't take out everything. I think you have to get, I'm not sure, but I think you have to get a special filter to take out fluoride and stuff. But the other thing I'll do is I'll just fill up a big watering can full of water and let it sit for at least 24 hours, and I'll try to use that. So I just don't want to be inadvertently adding any chemicals to my seeds while they're growing and they're babies. Whatever microbes might be in that soil already, I just want to encourage their growth, because the plants rely on that symbiotic relationship with the microbes in the soil. So the last thing I want to be doing is putting chlorine or different chemicals that are designed to kill microbes. That's the last thing I want to do, is be introducing that into the soil where I'm trying to get them to develop that relationship. All right, so the other thing is ventilation. So going right along with watering is your plants are designed, your seedlings that you're starting inside are designed to be outdoors. They're designed to germinate in the wind and with plenty of airflow. And so what's going to happen is, when you're germinating seeds inside and you're making sure that they're staying moist so they germinate, making sure that they don't dry out, most homes and maybe greenhouses, the air can be fairly stagnant, and that is the perfect place for diseases and fungal diseases and unwanted microbes to grow. And I don't know a lot about this. I'm not very knowledgeable about things like damping off and early blight and all that kind of things. But those, from what I understand, are just examples of diseases that tend to thrive in a poorly ventilated space. And that can happen indoors and outdoors, but it's the chances of it are higher in an indoor area where you're not getting the kind of ventilation. So what I did is, once my seedlings got maybe a set of true leaves, like they were just starting to kind of get where they were getting kind of set, I did two things. I put a fan on them, or I should say I put a fan on them, and it did two things. So the fan, I just put it on really, really, really low to begin with, and that just keeps air moving. So there's no stagnant air around the plants. It just keeps that air moving, and there's a lot less chance of those fungal diseases being able to take root. The other thing it does, which is a nice consequence, is as you're able to kind of turn that fan up a little bit, and do that slowly, don't crank your fan and then turn and walk away, trust me. But as you keep an eye on it, maybe you turn it up a little bit as the seedlings get stronger, it acts like wind in nature, and it actually will make that stem thicken and get stronger. And that's what you want. You want short, stocky, thick, strong plants. So anything to keep them from getting tall and leggy, and the wind, or even from the fan, kind of does that. So good ventilation. If you are starting your seeds inside, do make sure that you have some kind of a fan, and the closer you can have it to your plants without damaging your plants, the better. And do just keep an eye on it, because I have come home to find plants knocked over because it was just too much. They were getting a little bit too beat up. So I talked about the plug size. The other thing is temperature. So I think a lot of times we see all these seed startups in people's homes. We go and get our trays, we get our soil, we may even go get our lights, and we get everything all set up, and then we can't figure out why our seeds aren't germinating. And it took me a long time to figure out that not all seeds germinate at the same temperature. So like a bean or a pea or a radish or a beet is going to germinate at a completely different temperature than a tomato or a cucumber or okra. I remember one year I had grown okra the year before. Now I'm in Texas, and very little can handle our June, July, August temperatures. So, and I didn't realize how much I loved okra until I grew it, and it loves the heat. So I was so excited about my okra. I saved some seed. The next year I was quick to get some seed out there because I just couldn't wait to have my okra. And I had this beautiful orange jing okra that was just the most gorgeous color. Produces these amazing flowers. I mean, I think people should grow okra just as an ornamental. The flowers are so beautiful. It's in a hibiscus family. But what I didn't realize is, as much as okra loves the heat, it doesn't like the cold. And if you put okra seed into cold soil, it's not going to germinate. So I couldn't figure out why I had such horrible germination with my okra seeds. And the other thing that I noticed in the forum a lot is people talking about how quickly, this is kind of more to do with direct seeding outside, but when can I plant this? When can I plant that? Well, it's not just about freeze. It's not just about, whether or not you're going to get a freeze after you plant it. It's also, you may put that seed in the ground too early, and the soil temperatures are too cold for that seed to germinate, and there's a chance it's going to get eaten or rot before it gets a chance to germinate. So you want to pay attention to the germination temperatures. Usually it's listed on the seed packet, and if you just stick a simple ground thermometer into the soil and kind of keep track, maybe you can even journal what your soil temperatures are, then that'll help you not be putting seeds in too soon. It may even help you not to put seeds in too late, because some crops are considered cold weather crops, and you can start them even if you get your seed trays, you get your lights, you get your watering, you get all that good. By the time those seedlings are ready to go outside, it's way too hot for them. Peas, cilantro, parsley, carrots. You don't normally transplant carrots anyway, but they're just not going to do well because it's already too late. It's already too hot. So just paying attention to those temperatures can make a big difference. And then when I was talking about strengthening your seedlings, I've seen this trick, and I really do believe that it works. As much as the fan blowing on your seedlings can kind of help them strengthen, and that's a nice passive way to do it. But I will also just come along every once in a while once the domes are off. So typically what I do for ventilation purposes, because I don't want it to get stagnant, is once that seedling is kind of set and it's up, maybe even starting to get its first set of true leaves, I'll go ahead and take those domes off so that it can start to get some ventilation and it can start to get some more direct light from the light above it. What I was going to say is I'll go by and I'll just kind of gently pet. So pet your seedlings. Just kind of petting them lightly will also do the same thing. It'll kind of help strengthen the stems. Going back to lighting though, you want always that light to stay as close to the seedling as you possibly can. Then gradually, you don't really want that seedling getting too close, because with certain types of bulbs, it can actually burn the seedling. So if your seedling gets too close to the bulb, you're going to start to get scalding and burning on it. What I found this year, And I really tested this, partially on purpose, partially by accident, because my seedlings did so good. They got so big so quickly that I didn't have a choice about keeping them inside too long. But those shop lights that I mentioned that I bought, they're 5,000 Kelvin, 10,000 lumen, but they're LED, and LED typically it's a low wattage bulb, and it doesn't typically put out any or minimal heat. And I had times where my squash and my tomato seedlings were touching, like not just touching, but well up in the business of that light. And I didn't see any burning, any scalding, any damage whatsoever. So the type of light can make a difference. And if you have that situation, basically you just want to keep raising your light if you can, and keeping it about 2 inches above your seedlings the whole time. And what that'll do is that will make sure they're getting plenty of light. The other question that gets asked a lot is how long to leave your light on. And honestly, what I did to make it easier for myself is I just have everything plugged into one extension cord that has a switch. I think it's probably like for Christmas lights or something, but there's a switch on it that controls all the outlets on the cord. And I just have all my lights plugged into that. When I get up in the morning, before I grab my coffee, I turn it on. And as I'm kind of winding down at the end of the day, before I go to bed, I turn it off. I could be wrong on this. I'm definitely not an expert, but in my experience, you cannot give them too much light. You can give them too little. I don't think you can give them too much. And that may be partially with the LED not putting off any heat, that kind of thing. I'm not sure. But I've never had a problem. I've left my lights on 48 hours in a row and not have a problem. I do recommend that you do turn them off at night though, because there is a cycle. You know, this is a really good tip. And we're going to talk about this a lot on this channel, and that is it's the Jadam concept of follow nature. So what that means is nature knows best. Nature's been doing this a lot longer than any of us and knows how to do this. So whenever you're not sure, just think about what nature does. And nature gives everything a cycle of light and dark and light and dark. So if nature does it, then we should probably do it too. Okay, let's recap. 7 keys for healthy seed starts: location, shelves, watering, lights, seed trays, temperature, and seed starting mix. All right, guys. So part 2 in this series of seedlings, hardening off, transplanting, all those questions that show up in the chat forums. Part 2 is on the timing, because that also makes a huge difference. And that's one of those levers, that's one of those variables that answers the question of when should I plant, when should I transplant, when should I start hardening off, that other people can't necessarily answer for you because they don't know your unique circumstances. So if you learn the keys and what to look for and what to be aware of, then you'll develop the instinct for how to answer those questions for yourself.